why do you think Little Man got dropped from Interscope? Because they had the two successful Blackstreet albums. Queen Pin didn't do was okay. I think she went gold. Why do you think they didn't get the support for the Finally album and got dropped?
It was more so that particular single.
Boyfriend,
Jimmy didn't
girlfriend.
want Right. Jimmy didn't want that to be the single, and somehow it came out anyway. So that became a big problem, from what I heard. And but more so than that, too, man, you got to look at the structure of the album that went multi-platinum, which was Mark, Eric, Chauncey, and Teddy.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, they wanted to put Mark out of the group. And so that was the biggest mistake, in my opinion, that started the downhill spiral for them. Off of that record, like Don't Leave, that album was a classic.
Mm.
So to start busting up the group and bringing in a new singer at that point was just foolish.
Yeah, and the vibe of that record, the vibe was totally different from another level. And it kind of reminds me, because you talk about transition, since you just brought that up, it kind of like you can make that comparison to when you look at the First Guy album and you look at the Future album. The vibe of the two records are totally separate. There's a lot more rap on the Future album. When you look at the Finally album, it's the same situation. You got Beanie Siegel, you got Eve, you got a lot of different situations. So it's not like a straight ahead R&B album anymore. The vibe is totally different. There's some good spots that are there, but like you said, and when you take Mark out of that situation, now people are familiar with the group. The group has a strong identity now. You pulling your main guy out vocally, who's behind those records, and now just throws it back into chaos.
Throws it back into chaos. And then there's, the energy he brought too. You know what I mean? Me and Mark real cool. He wanted me to be in the group.
To replace
after
Mark?
That. Yes. And I didn't, I refused.
Whoa, why?
Yeah, because that's the thing about me, man. I'm not an opportunist, man. Like you asked me earlier, was I ever felt like I should be, because Pharrell and Chad became great producers, or Tim are friends of mine and different things. I'm not the type of person that I know my place. See, a lot of people, they just want to be anywhere, as long as it's going to give them shine and they can look important. I'm confident in who I am as an artist, writer, producer, all of that. So I don't have to do that. So I knew that wasn't my place. I knew it would have been a great opportunity, some good money, but that wasn't what I was called to do. So I told him that. I said, no, you need to keep marketing. And that was kind of like how we had an issue with that. You know what I'm saying? From there.
And that's a busy period, because think about it. He's coming off of, Another Level drops in 96, and they're rolling into 97. They're doing the remixes. He's doing remixes, Rugrats Television. He's got Big Bob's album. He's got Queen Pen's album. He's working a lot between that 96, 97, 98 period. So do you think that, like, him being as busy, and he's still doing remixes and things of that nature, do you think that he was spread like really, really thin to where being able to focus on those projects
I think
kind of went back?
No, because I think, again, I just think it's more about transitioning mentally, like, and what his role was in the industry. Because if you look at him having all of these great producers and all of the people who came from here that did well, at some point he could have said, okay, this is the next wave. Let me just be more of a CEO kind of situation versus continuing, like you said, trying to keep that, because your time is going to end as far as your sound and what you do production wise, unless you diversify.
You brought, when you say that brings to mind like the Philadelphia, the neo soul movement. And prior to that, 70s, you had the whole Gamble and Huff situation going on. And they could have actually pivoted that to been like the overhead of the newer generations that were coming out, but they were kind of like stuck They were kind of stuck to their sound, stuck to their identity, and they couldn't really see around the corner. Even though Teddy's still young, maybe 30 years old, but he's been in the music business for 15 years at that point. So now it's like it's a new sound.
Yep.
I remember having a conversation with some guys right around that 97, 98 time period, and they were talking about all the greatest producers and this, that, and the other, and they didn't have Teddy in the conversation. At that point, Timbaland is hot. Timbaland is like right in the middle of doing his thing. So Teddy at that point is now starting to be associated with a previous era in music versus being a contemporary producer. It's kind of hard, man.
Exactly. And that pivot, like you said, it never happened, you know. But still, I mean, listen, the man is still iconic for what he did. So I mean, everybody has their time, man. And again, that's why I say I'd never get into trying to say, oh, well, this should have happened, or I wish this. No, everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you have to realize that you know, Sheldon, Stevie, and I mean, I'm his biggest fan, and you know, anything I do, when I do any interviews for me, everything is I put everything around Teddy's music. But my favorite album is Make It Last Forever. Then the Bobby album is second favorite. Then Dangerous. I mean, so everything Teddy did, you know, all his tracks, all his productions. There was a time that I only bought his stuff. It's strange because when the Finally album came out and the first single, Boyfriend Girlfriend, most of us as Teddy fans thought that Interscope pushed that single out because they wanted to showcase Eve and Ja Rule, who were Universal artists. They were both, you know, so I thought they were we hated the song, we hated the video, and we thought, oh, they're just trying to put these rappers to promote them. It was one of the worst songs I've ever heard. The fact that became this lead single,
The worst
really.
song you ever heard.
Pardon?
You said the worst song you ever heard?
I mean, this is it had no flow. It had no, you know, even with that album, I could have still had.
Be honest with you, I would blame. No, you can't blame. It wasn't Interscope.
No, that's the thing. I thought at all this time I thought it was Interscope because of they wanted to push Eve and Ja Rule. I thought that was what we were thinking. That they just want to push Eve and Ja Rule, so they said, yeah, that's a good single to put out, and we were upset about that.
Of the creation of that project, and it was just the vibe was off. Like the whole vibe of the creative process was off. Like, because again, and I think because he knew he wasn't thinking clearly. And then you know, going through the things with Mark and all of this, the music just wasn't there, bro.
Yeah. I mean, I've been around Mark when Blackstreet came to London, and we hung out for a couple of hours, and he just was singing continuously, I was like, man, this guy just loves to sing. He just had that. He was like a pastor who just loved to sing, and
there you go.
Yeah,
I love this guy.
Yeah, so and as I said, I've interviewed Eric, and Eric's probably the first person who was really open about how the whole thing went down. And he was, and even Mucho Scott, also they were very open and critical about that whole situation and that time frame, which, as I said, as a Teddy fan, was disappointing. I thought the album still had a couple of tracks that could have been. I thought Your Love could have been a better lead single, which was, with Source Money. I thought there were other tracks that I'm Sorry. I think there were other tracks that could have salvaged the album if it had, if they'd really even if they had that album as it is. I think they had some good tracks on there that could have been. I mean, you can't replace Mark, because Mark had he carried that first album in such a way. But I still thought there were some singles that they could have used to salvage it. But it was very disappointing that comes out, it flops, and they just didn't even get a second chance. I thought they would at least say, okay, for what you've done in the past will still give you an opportunity for them to just say, that's it, you know. But you've sort of cleared it up that actually, if you go against the label head and you bet that you're going to win because you've got Janet on the track and it doesn't go forward, then, you know, and especially they spent over $1.5 million on that video as well. You know, you've taken a gamble. Hey, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If you love what you watched, there's over 100 artists that we've interviewed. So please check out the videos. Remember to like, share, and unsubscribe. Or better still, become a member of Halftime Chat and get exclusive videos ahead of time. But thanks for watching. Take care.